Hey folks, it's Carl over at Sterling Health and Fitness, and thanks for tuning in to another episode. So I'm really excited to have a special guest with me today, somebody who I've been following for quite some time now and learning a lot of great things from. She is a vegan athlete, an animal rights activist, and a Taekwondo black belt. She also has a really cool website that I love, which is actually how I discovered my guest. It's called meatfreeathlete.com, and it's my pleasure to introduce Anne-Marie Campbell. And thanks so much for taking this time. We've been trying to connect for a while here, and we finally connected tonight. Thank you.
No, thanks for having me. Good.
Yeah, I love all the stuff you're doing. Your website is a great resource of information. I've learned a lot from it. You have some really cool clothing on there, too, I'm going to be buying. But, great. The blogs are great. Information is awesome. So first of all, I like the idea that you're a vegan athlete.
Yeah.
I think it's so cool because what I find as a personal trainer, as a fitness trainer, being in gyms a lot, being around athletes a lot, I still find that the general consensus of people, the general consensus is that you can't be an athlete without eating meat to get protein, and you can't build lean muscle mass, or you can't perform well, or get good recovery nutrients into your body. And of course, I know that's not true. And I was wondering if you could share a little bit about your experience, like maybe some history, how you got into this whole thing.
Okay. It's absolutely false. You don't need meat and dairy or animal products for performance, muscle, recovery, everything. It's just a very old way of thinking. So for me, I haven't had beef or pork, lamb, any of that for about 20 years. That I cut out a long time ago when I was a teenager just for health reasons. I just didn't really like it in general, so I just cut it out anyway. And then in recent years, I learned about what was happening in factory farms and just animal production in general, basically how we use animals. And I was just horrified. I don't know, there's such a big disconnect that we have. We just don't even think at all where our food's coming from. You'll order chicken, but you're not actually thinking of an actual chicken. You know what I mean? It's just a word, right? Like for me at least.
Yeah.
So I just started researching, our food. Where does it come from? How is it being produced? And I just didn't want any part of it. So that's in recent years I've become vegan. That was in 2011. And I've been a competitive athlete since I was 9 years old. So I used to be a competitive gymnast. And then it switched over to hockey. I played travel hockey on a competitive team. And then switched over to Taekwondo, which I do now. Taekwondo is my main thing. So I've been a competitive athlete for as long as I can remember. Like that's me. Like I'm just an athlete. That's just in my brain. So
right.
I can compare, right? I can tell you, like I've done I've tried every meal back then. I'd have the pasta and the meat or the chicken and the whatever, and I can honestly say that the best performance I have is happening now. I have more energy. My recovery is faster. I keep the muscle tone easier, so just like my six pack, right? It's so much easier to maintain. I don't even do sit-ups every day or even, maybe a couple times a week. I do some crunches and it's just easier to maintain it. It's just there. Your body's just thriving on, good plant foods, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I've noticed, and this is newer for me, I don't go back as far with this nearly, but the first thing I noticed when I cut out meat, and I started, just meat, fish too, I don't do any fish. I never really liked it anyways, but no meat, no fish. So my energy changed. Like within a week, I actually felt a measurable, significant increase in my overall energy throughout every single day.
Okay.
I didn't feel bogged down.
Yeah.
Do you find most people feel that way?
Yeah, like I've heard a lot of people, they share their stories with me or they'll ask me for advice and then I'll give them some tips just from, my own experience and they say it's working for them, So, and then for myself, I used to always I'd need that before my hockey game or before Taekwondo, I would have some sort of caffeine or I'd have one of those energy drinks because it's like, where you need this energy now. It's like, no caffeine, not before training, never. Like, I don't drink caffeine every day at work. I don't need it. Before, I needed caffeine. You'd feel like, you need that caffeine. I don't need it anymore. I just have so much more energy than I even did like 10 years ago, which is, and I'm getting older, but I have more energy than I was younger. So that tells me it's working, right?
I can relate to that, actually. Yes, and I can relate to that too because I'm in the same position. I have much more energy than I did, 5 years ago or 10 years ago for sure. And that's a really good feeling. I perform a lot better. I sleep better. My digestion and everything is better. It seems like my overall functionality internally and movement and everything is better. So let's speak for a minute because I'm always really curious to hear this. This is one of my favorite things to talk about. And this is not to make fun of anybody, to knock anybody by any means, but there seems to be this misconception that, especially if you're into building lean muscle mass, you're out there, you're pumping iron or whatever it is, that you just can't possibly build lean muscle if you don't eat meat. And so rather than talk about that that's not true, which we basically already did, what are you doing to substitute, to keep, let's say, maintain lean muscle, nutrient-wise? What are your foods of choice for protein?
For protein, just a good variety, lentils, chickpeas, beans, just all types of beans, quinoa, brown rice. I like unsweetened organic soy milk, a lot of kale, peas, green peas. Those are probably my favorite. That's like the big batch of things that I'm definitely eating on a regular basis. Like also like organic tofu and tempeh. Those are excellent as well. So.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
That's really, that I'm glad to hear you say that because actually, my list is almost identical to yours.
Yeah.
But I love all those things.
Yeah.
I love all those things, especially though. Speaking of organic, that's another thing. The soy crops these days are largely genetically modified, and so we have to look for organic soy. And there's a big difference between genetically modified crops and organic crops, truly organic ones.
Yeah, I find that to be just even with everything in general. Do you know what I mean? So I aim to just eat organic in general. Right? Not just soy, everything, right? A lot of GMO stuff is still it's just unhealthy, right? So, just go for organic. I find that a lot of stuff with soy, there's a lot of fear some people have with soy, but I just feel like it's a lot of propaganda, against soy. It's a great health food, high in protein, calcium. There's a lot, iron. It's a highly beneficial plant food. So, and I understand why people would want it organic, absolutely. But just in general, organic if possible for everything, even vegetables.
True.
Vegetables and fruits. Sometimes it's a little harder to find though, right? So, or it might be super expensive where you might live. But I always just suggest organic when possible for anything.
Yeah, I've been finding that if people have a farmer's market around where they have local farmers that grow organic, it can be less expensive than a grocery store. So here in Syracuse, we have a pretty good market. It's pretty strong. We have the reseller people, but we also have the organic farmers too. There are more of them lately, so it's really nice to see. The prices are really good too.
That's
so I also was curious about the if you have any advice for people as far as if they're thinking of making a switch. For example, with me, it started with just cutting out meat and fish. I still had cheese. I never drank milk. I really just didn't like it, but I would have cheese, and I had to wean myself off of that. But do you have advice for anyone who's thinking of experimenting or going, let's say they want to be vegan?
Yeah.
What's your advice on getting them there?
I know that it sounds overwhelming for some people just in general. So when you hear about going vegan, it can sound very overwhelming. So realistically, doing something like that overnight is not plausible, right? Especially for if you want it to be a long-lasting thing. So understandably, you wouldn't just say, go vegan. So I like to tell people to start trying new things. So go out and try ditch your dairy, maybe try like an almond milk or soy milk. They even have things like cashew milk now. Like there's so many different like non-dairy milks that you can try. So just enjoy trying new things, right? Just be open to trying. Also veganize your favorite meals. That to me is like a big thing that I did. Everything that I used to eat before I was vegan, I eat now, but just a veganized version. So for me, like, I don't even have that much of a difference in the way I eat, really, because I'm not missing out on anything. I still have lasagna, I still have pizza, if I want, right? So you can eat anything vegan. So just to let people know, it's not that all of a sudden vegan means changing your entire life where now you're just eating salads and just some vegetables, right? Because some people are going to want to have more hearty meals or just, you know what I mean? Or that might just scare them at first, right? To think so plant-based with all the veggies and the fruits, right? So, but then once they start eating more of those,
me, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it seems very scary for people, right? Like that's just a realistic thing. Just from talking to so many different people, and they've come and they ask me for advice. Like the biggest thing I've been told is that it just seems overwhelming, and it just doesn't seem plausible, right? Like they're just not into that. But once they start incorporating those things, they'll start craving more vegetables. You'll be craving more fruit. You'll be craving beans, tofu. You'll start craving these things because your body is, we're all creatures of habit, right? So if you start eating better foods, your body wants better foods, right? So my advice is definitely start swapping things, right? So swap out your milk and then start veganizing your meals, right? And then also as an advisor, just like start looking up videos, like what's your motivation, right? So for me, first and foremost, I'm an ethical vegan. So like my motivation is always going to be at the forefront, just knowing that I don't want to contribute to the use of animals. So for me, just knowing that, like, it's always easy for me. Like, I don't want anything you'll never see me like treating myself to an animal product. Like, I just can't fathom that, like, cause I just don't want it. So I find that if people have maybe a strong sense or belief as to why they want to be vegan, there's that stronger ground for them, that ground as to why to stay away from it. You can still treat yourself, right? So vegan doesn't mean that you're just on a diet. So if you want to treat yourself to a cake or a donut or brownie, you can do that. Just veganize it. Do you know what I mean? So it's not like you have to be in a strict one way of eating. The great thing about being vegan is you can eat any way you want to really eat, right? But then, of course, the athlete in me wants to, eat healthy because of my performance. So, but it's good to know that if I want to eat a pizza or a cake, I'm just going to have a vegan pizza or cake. So.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of, that's a really good point to swap it out, veganize your meal. I don't know that, in fact, I know people don't always think of it because I didn't think of it, When I made the shift, I wasn't really thinking about swapping anything until I was educated a little bit by people like you who've done this and had the experience. And I used to have this one meal I really liked. In fact, I cooked it recently. It was sun-dried tomatoes and olive oil with garlic and onions and chicken.
Yeah. And
then you put it on some noodles or whatever. Well, now it's the same exact thing with tofu. I get some organic tofu, and it cooks a little different and it absorbs the flavor different, but it's so good, and I feel better eating that. I don't feel so bogged down after a nice bowl of that as I do chicken.
Yeah.
Plus, it took me a while because, like you said, you brought up a really good point. I used to, order a burger or chicken or whatever, wings or whatever. I never really thought about, the animal part of it. Like, they just show up and you just eat them because that's the way it works. We don't have to watch them get from, where they were to on your plate. But this kind of goes back to what we touched on a little bit earlier was in fact, before we even started the recording here, the treatment of a lot of farms, the way they treat their animals, farm practices, the pollution factor. I mean, I think if somebody just watches Food Inc., they might get a real good idea. There are a lot of other documentaries out there, but, I don't want to go off on a political rant or anything like that, but the fact is that a lot of these animals are brought up in terrible conditions, and they're very unhealthy.
Yeah.
And then when we ingest that unhealthy into ourselves, it doesn't help our health. So,
well, they're pumped full of a lot of antibiotics and growth hormones too. Yeah, it's just like they're put in these unsanitary conditions, so they're pumped with, antibiotics, and they have their growth hormones. So when you're eating them, you're always getting a small dose of that, right? All the antibiotics and the growth hormones. It's just not good for your own body, right? To be ingesting that in any way, right? So, just in general, like environmentally, the devastation on the earth is just, it can't be denied at this point. There's just too much evidence out there. The suffering of the animals, the cost on our health, right? So it's all really starting to become just so much more clear. There's a lot of great documentaries coming out. There's just so many of them. And just with social media, right, we're being able to just reach so many other people, and the information's there.
Yeah, it sure is. I know that the pollution factor is huge among that industry. And it's not doing us any good in that department either.
No.
So let's go back to, let's talk about your website for a minute, meatfreeathlete.com. I love the site. Do you have recipes on there?
There's lots of recipes. Yep. There'll be everything on there from stuff that's good for performance or recovery. And then there's lots of dessert and then just kind of comfort foods. Because like I said, I still like to have my vegan junk foods and comfort foods too. So I put them on the site as well. So you can get everything from super healthy, high protein foods to good for recovery, to a lasagna or some sort of cake or something a little more decadent like that. So lots of recipes, and it's growing. I'm adding more in the moment right now. I'm working on actually upgrading the website, which actually should go live within the next few days, hopefully. So it's just going to give a fresh new look to the website, just making it even more user-friendly, just making it easier for people to get the information that they might not even know they're looking for. Just I'm trying to help guide people into answering questions they might have, and they're not sure maybe where to navigate and get the information. So I'm just trying to get it all on my site in one definitive source.
That's great. Yeah, it's an awesome site, and you also have some featured athletes on there too, I believe. I know I've seen some things with people you featured who they're vegan, they're either putting on some lean muscle, they're performance athletes or whatever. So there's some really good information there too. I find that to be real inspiring.
That's what's there for, definitely. Yeah, the featured athletes. I'll feature athletes as long as they're vegan, just so that they can show people, what you can do as a vegan athlete. There's everyone there from lifters to, martial artists, hockey, everything you can think of. We got runners. I find it inspiring too, right? So the community inspires me. Just seeing everybody out there.
Yeah.
You're always learning, right? It's always learning. I haven't stopped learning at a certain, I didn't make the website and I've stopped. Like, that's it. I'm still learning, and I love it. I love to keep learning more information.
Yeah.
So.
That's how it is for me too. When I talk with people like you who know so much, have so much great information to offer that we can help to educate. It helps me a lot, and I just have a real passion for it. So I want to capture these moments, which I appreciate again so much, and share them with people because, you know, we all resonate with people differently. How you say something could resonate with somebody a certain way where all of a sudden, boom, they just, all of a sudden everything else they ever heard just ties in and makes sense, and now they make a shift.
Yeah.
So my mission is basically to help people improve the quality of their health and their life, you know, in whatever capacity I can. I know you're doing a similar thing. It's really great.
Thank you.
So do you have, let me ask you this before we sign off. If there's anything we didn't touch on that you want to touch on, that's number one. And number two, if you have an overall, let's say, takeaway message, just an overall message you want to get out to the viewers.
My mission is very similar to yours. It's just, my mission is just to lead by example. So my meatfreeathlete.com is the website, and I'm also on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. That's where my passion lays as well. I just want to show people by example, you know, what I'm doing, right? So I'm showing you kind of my journey. Right now I'm working toward earning my 2nd degree black belt in Taekwondo, you know, and I'm vegan. So I'm showing you, hey, here's how here's my journey. I'm also sharing things like my health, how I'm feeling, what kind of things I'm eating, right? Give advice, take advice, you know, it's a give and take. So that's pretty much what's going on with me. And like things like I haven't even had a cold in over 3 years. So, you know, not even a cold. So, I mean, people around me have like the flu and pneumonia and things, all my family, my nephews, things like that. I haven't even had a cold. And I definitely attribute that to the, you know, vegan eating, right? Like just what other reason would that be? Because that's never happened to me before in my life before, right? So as soon as I became vegan, all of a sudden, right? Like I have more energy. I'm not even getting cold. So definitely my mission is just to be there to lead by example. I mean, and my hopes are, you know, to reach people, to help people transition to vegan or even just stay vegan, right? So if I could help anybody, then that's awesome. That's what I hope to do. So
that's great. That's really, really good. You know, I find it's kind of like when somebody is really, really out of shape, what I notice as a trainer is they may come to me and mention or inquire about the idea of starting a program. And, you know, you have a nice discussion, and I may not see them for a year or two or ever. But once they finally start, we take baby steps. You know, you can't just dive into some kind of crazy workout. You could have some problems.
Yeah.
But and it's too overwhelming. It's too overwhelming. It's just too much to take in. So too much for your body, too much for your mind and your emotions and everything. So, but just getting started can be the key. And what I found when I started was just being a vegetarian first, as I found myself wanting to keep going and having the will to keep going.
Yeah.
Just like when I was really big years ago, I was a lot heavier. I had the will to keep shifting losing weight and then redistributing weight as I got down in my body fat and everything like that. It's like just getting started.
Yeah.
Is one of the things I try to, you know, baby steps. So if anyone's thinking of going vegetarian or vegan, I think you have great advice. Start swapping out a few meals here and there and work your way towards the ultimate goal.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so then you're like for me, what it becomes now is, like you said, now that I kind of, actually it's almost a game. I want to see how much I can do and how much I can be creative with my meals and all that kind of thing and stay as healthy as possible. It's a game where I'm leading by the example that I want to set. So it's so cool.
Yeah.
And I'm always inspired by you. And I think we have a really cool community of people we group together we have these conversations, we learn from each other, and then we go out, we share, and then we learn more and share more. And I love the fact that I'm always learning, and I always hope, I know I'll always be learning.
Oh, yeah, always. And the vegan community is awesome like that. Awesome. Like, everyone's really supportive. If you post a picture and you're showing a progress picture, right, and you're like, here's my starting picture, and and then you've got some goals. The vegan community is just so positive. They are so uplifting. Like, this has to be one of the most positive, supportive communities I've ever been in part of. It's just such great people. Because everyone, they're starting with a good intention, right? Everybody, especially like from experience with through Meat Free Athlete, and I see a lot of health and fitness things happening, and like people are at whatever point in their goal, right, reaching their goal. So many people are encouraging them. You don't see somebody coming in and just being a jerk and saying something discouraging. Like, you just don't see it. You know what I mean? So I feel like that's a good plus for people that are athletes or just very active and they want to become vegan. Get social, get online, start following, get on Instagram, right? Check out the hashtag Meat Free Athlete, stuff like vegan food share for awesome food. And vegan and things like, check those type of hashtags, follow them, right? Check these out. Like, you will see a lot of inspiration and some really positive people, right? So, and then interact with people, get on Twitter, interact with people, ask questions, share your experience. Even if you're at the beginning, even if you're just starting being vegan and you just start tweeting about your experiences, people are going to start chatting back and forth with you, right? It's really inspiring for everybody, the beginner and people that, have been doing it for a little while, right? So, really awesome community.
Yeah, totally. Plus, as people do that and they are interacting like that, sometimes they're, you never know who's watching you. This is one thing I find really interesting. And I tell people who start, let's say, an exercise program or a certain, dietary lifestyle, for example, you don't know who's watching. You do know some, possibly. Yeah. But you never know everyone who's watching. You can be inspiring people without even knowing it. And I know that's happened to me where people come up after maybe 2 years. I ran into somebody recently over the holidays who said, oh, man, he said, I've been following all your posts. He never likes anything. He never hits the like button, never comments, and that's fine. Yeah. But I had no idea that he's watching and that actually now he's inspired into action. And, of course, I looked at him and I said, man, you really look good. Because he said, well, I've been following not just my posts, but other ones too. So it's nice to be maybe a little bit of an inspiration to somebody to cause them to make a change where they feel better. And then it's kind of sometimes a ripple effect. They affect somebody else. And
yeah, absolutely.
That interaction, even if it's a beginner getting started, that might spur somebody else to get started too. So you never know who's watching.
Yeah, it's true.
I always keep that in mind.
It can be inspiring for anyone. Like for me, I'm inspired by new vegans, right? Every time there's a new vegan, that inspires me because then I feel like our movement is growing. So they might be following me, so they're kind of inspired by what I'm showing and my message and kind of what I'm sharing. And then they're new and they're like, oh, I'm a new vegan, and now I'm inspired by you, right? So absolutely, there's just so much inspiration from all different angles.
Well, that is awesome. Well, first of all, thank you again for taking this time with me, Anne-Marie. It's really good to be able to talk with you, and I know that our audience is growing, so I'm sure we're going to get a lot of views, and you'll be inspiring another audience that you haven't reached yet, which I'm really excited about because I want to share what you're doing. And so throughout the interviews, I go in and edit later and add your link in there several times. So it'll be on the bottom of the screen, meatfreeathlete.com. And I appreciate this a lot. Let's do it again sometime.
Yeah,
we'll talk
thank
more.
You for having me. This is awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, you're very welcome. Thank you for taking the time. And folks, be sure to go to meatfreeathlete.com. Check out Anne-Marie's site, and like she said, in a few days will be another version of the site uploaded with new information. Also, check out sterlinghealthandfitness.com, And thanks for tuning in. Happy New Year, everybody. Have a great day. Thank you again.
Thank you.